Evening, friends. It's coming toward evening. I have a project on the bench. It's not a guitar project, it's a neck project. And the owner of this guitar sent me this neck. It has sentimental value. I don't know what that value is, but if it's sentimental value, it means a lot to him. And he wanted me to have a look at this. He wanted me to level the frets and put a new bone nut on it. Now then, I said to him, them frets look really low. They might be too low to actually get them any lower than that and be able to re-crown them, because if I remove material from the top, I've got to rebuild that crown up, and once you get below 0.8 millimeters height on a fret, it's very, very difficult to make a crown back on there. So if they are lower than that or close to that, I'm going to have to recommend a refret rather than a fret level. So I have a measure of these frets, and I've got here I have my gubbins, and the good thing about this is I can measure the height of the frets because I have, it's a Stumac one, you see. And what I can do with this is I can measure frets because it will measure height of certain things. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this straight, set this level, zero it, and then we are going to check the height of a fret. That fret is 0.0385 inches, which in millimeters is 32 of an inch. It's 0.98 height, so we're getting very close to where we could be. I'm going to actually not even balance it on there, no point doing that. So let's again, I'm going to set this to 0. No, we're not. We're going to set it to 0 once it's on here. So what we're going to do is zero it out. Okay, that's 0. And then we're going to measure the height of these frets. Because the thing is, it's not about the height of the frets. These are divots. There are divots in these frets, and I've got to file down to get the divots out. Then I've got to re-crown from there. That's 0.91. I tell you now, we're not going to be able to do it. We're not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to level these. Right, so there you go. We are zeroed out. Let's have a look again. .91. That one. Zero out again. Zeroed out. What are we doing? Zeroed out again. This one 0.87. No, we're not going to be able to do it. There's not enough on them frets to level them and re-crown. Let's have a look at this one. 0.92 on that one. .95 depending on where you hit the fret. So my estimation, do I think there's enough meat on those frets to re-crown? What do you guys think? There's not a lot of meat on them, is there? If I do that, then put on a bone nut, it's going to cost him 200 quid. He might as well have a refret. It's going to cost him 275. If I put a bone nut on there, 65 quid. I do a fret level, it's 135 quid. 200 quid's worth. It's not going to be worth doing. He's going to be a lot better off if he has a refret. So I'm going to recommend that. It's not worth me taking on. It's not worth me doing a fret level. I'm not trying to recrown him because it's going to be hard work. This is going to be a lot harder for me. And so I'm going to let him. I'm going to message him, let him know. So one more, so we're still zeroed out. So look at the height of the frets here. 0.78. There's absolutely no point me trying to level the thing of these. They're not high enough. Let's have a look at another low one. That is the lowest by far. This one here. 0.82. You're not levelling and crowning them frets. There's not enough meat on them. So I'm going to let him know. Come back, fret friends. So regarding this neck, I've talked to the client. He says yes, go for a refret. Looking at this, I'm trying to decide whether it might have been refretted before, possibly. Or maybe these lines are just from taking the lacquer off. It looks like the lacquer's been partly removed. These tuners are not on very well at all, especially this one. So I've asked if he wants me to sort these tuners out, and this M1 as well. We're not in very well at all. I'm going to plug the holes of these end two and re-drill and put these up straight. Now there's a sticker gone missing from there as well, so I'm wondering if this is a Japanese one, because the Japanese ones had a sticker made in Japan on them. Some were printed, some had a sticker. Truss rod being at that end as well may say it's a Japanese one. Regarding the nut, I'm going to have to remove it. Looks like someone's already tried to remove it from that side, and one bit didn't come out, so we've stuck it back in. So I've got to be very, very careful. So that's basically it with this. Now I'm going to take a scalpel or a scalpel type knife, and I'm going to cut around the edge of a nut, because I'm going to have to remove a nut. I just want to cut around any lacquer that might be there. Because it stops us getting a chip. It's liable we're going to cause some damage at this end anyway. You normally do when you take a nut out. It's very difficult to get them out without damaging them. But you know, fingers crossed. It looks like this has been super glued in, so it might be a right bitch to get out. Now my vice at the moment is occupied with another guitar. But I have cut round that, and I'm wondering if I can just give that a tap. Got a nice thin screwdriver there. There we will get a nice little mallet, short mallet or small mallet. Now I would normally do this in a vice. But the vice is occupied. I could unoccupy it, I suppose. Put this knife away. I'm just going to see if we can just release this knot. I'm going to go from this side. I wouldn't normally go from this side, I go from underneath, because if we cause any damage we can hide it better underneath, but I think this will be okay. Just going to get a couple of taps with my fretting mallet. I don't want to slip anywhere into the wood. And there you go. And that, my friends, I believe is the knot free. And the knot is out in one piece. It didn't take much at all, did it? It's been in there a long time. It's not caused any damage to anything. It's come out really, really cleanly. So I'm really pleased about that. This is, I adapted the screwdriver to fit the 3mm slot. This is a 3mm slot. It's a curved nut. I don't know if I've got any left in stock. I'll have a look in a minute. But that's, oh, that slot is beautiful now. Now I've just cleared that slot. Let me just show you the edges of this slot. And that's as much as we could have hoped for. Look at the slot. That's the top side, the side you see. And this is the bottom side, the underneath side. And we have got that out so cleanly. Could not have gone better. So that's a great piece of news here. So removing the frets. Chances are I'm going to go and heat these frets up. Now I do have an adapted soldering iron to remove these frets, so I'm going to go and set that up. I will try and just pinch one out without heating up the fretboard, if I can find my nipples. Here we are. From Guitars and Woods, fret pullers. Had these a good few years. Probably the only good tool I've ever had from Guitars and Woods. I stopped using them a couple of years ago. There's a big hoo-ha about it and a big fallout, and they were so rude. Their after sales people were so rude, so I stopped going there. And I'm going to take one out from the bottom, because again, if there's any damage it's easier to hide. And let's try up here. I think I'm going to have to heat these up, but let's see what, yeah, we're definitely going to have to heat these up, because that is not going to can't even get a grip on these frets. So I'm going to have to heat them up. So I will go and dig out my soldering iron with an adapted bit so I can heat those up. They'll come out a lot easier when they're warm. And I'll bring you back in. We're going to have to put up with the traffic noise outside because it's so hot in here. I've got the windows open. So, an adapted soldering iron here with a bent tip, small groove in there just so I can go over frets. Don't use this for anything else. It was only going in the scrapper anyway. I've got some chip stoppers from Stumac if I want to use them, if they are going to help us out. And my fret pullers or fret pliers here. So we're going to apply some heat to the fret. And this will help with chip out. Especially if we've been glued in. So let's get a little bit of heat in there. I'm going to try not to gnaw any of the wood out, but these can be really difficult to pull when they're this low. So I may have to do some repairs a little bit later on, but we'll see how we go. Certainly not going to come out super easy like I thought they might. Oh, there you go, it's come out at the edge. I'm going to take a chip stopper like so, place it over the fret, and as we come across the fret, the chip stopper should stop us getting any chips. And there you go, and there's one out, and that was quite easy. The heat makes all the difference. So there's no damage there. That's really good. And what we'll do with those is we'll recut the slots again a little bit later, but let's carry on what we're doing. Because so far so good. We're not all going to come out that easy. I guarantee it when I get up that end of the neck they're going to be a little bit more difficult. May also have to re-radius the fingerboard. We'll have a check later. So heat the fret. See that one didn't go under, but is it gone under? I'm not sure. No, it's not gone under, look. So some of them can be bastards to get a grip on. They've not got a grip on that. So they don't all come out easy. I may need to look at reinvesting in a new fret puller, because that doesn't seem to be going down as much as it ought to. Certainly not getting under the fret. Let's try it from the other side. Sometimes you just need to go a little bit up over and look at that. And I'm not going to use a chip stopper there, I'm just going to pull this out, because once you get them going, they normally come straight out, and there you go. It's come straight out. So we've got two out. We may have trouble getting them out, it may be easy, I don't know. But I'm going to stop the camera there, I'm going to crack on pulling these out. So I'm waiting for a client. Once the client's here, I'll drop off this, but I'll bring you back in a little bit later, show you how the frets came out. Before I refret this neck, I've decided I'm going to re-radius it. And so what I need to do is I need to get this neck dead straight, which it already is, by the way. I've just loosened the truss rod and I've got it dead straight, or as close to dead straight as I possibly can. And that's where it is right now. I'll just check against the light, and that's beautiful. That is as straight as I can get it, that neck. So what I'm going to do is I built this a couple of years ago and it's a piece of MDF with two runners and Velcro attached to it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this via Velcro to this channel, and I'm going to get it central. And once I've got it central, I'm going to get my levelling beam or my sanding beam, and I'm going to get this line dead central. But my sanding beam fits just in there perfect. So I'm going to re-radius it to 9.5 inches. So I'm just about to stick on some, this is the only thing I've got left. I haven't got a lot, so I'm going to have to use it quite sparingly. But I'm going to stick this on the neck now. And it's the best I can do, unfortunately. So I'm going to go and buy some more of this. Right. So what I'm going to do is get this central, and I'll measure each side, and that will hold in place. My levelling beams are down here. I'm going to need a 9.5 inch radius beam. What have I done with them? I've definitely put them somewhere. There might be another room. I'll go and dig them out, find out where I've put them, and I'll come back and I'll show you how this works. So how do we get this straight down the middle? Easy. We measure the dots, centre of the dots, and I know that this is 70 wide exactly. So the dots need, centre of the dots needs to be 35. That one's 35, and that one's 35. It will be in a second. Perfect. Perfect. And we have a 9.5 inch radius beam with 240 grit sandpaper on there, and it's just a matter of and that's it. That's all I've got to do to radius the board back to 9.5. And there you see it. It's going to take me a while, so I'm going to crack on and I'll come back and show you when it's done. So I've sanded it back, re-radiused the whole length. I've just sprayed some zipper fluid and just dry the wood out. I'm going to have to stick some coats of oil in this now, because it's just bare wood. And I'm just going to make sure it's dead straight. And that, my friends, is wonderful. That's fabulous. Let's check. So we always go in a straight line. Wonderful. And again. Fabulous. So we have the neck dead straight. We can check the radius along the whole length. And this, my friends, is beautiful. That is fabulous. The edges are slightly rolled over this side a little bit, but it'll be fine. We'll just over radius ever so slightly. So what I'm going to have to do with this now is I'm going to have to coat it with some a few coats of oil. I'm not going to stain it. I'm just going to take a picture for the client. And I'm going to send that off to him, see what he thinks. So let him know I'm going to coat it with some board linseed oil. So that's good for now. I'm going to get some coats of oil on there, and once it's all done, I'm going to have about 10-15 coats. Once it's all done, we can look at getting the frets in. I now have this workbench in the same room as I have my setting up workbench, so the camera doesn't really move unless I want a specific angle on something on the setup table. But yeah, I've just got the neck held in a vise because I'm just going to cut or make sure the nut slots are clean. I've already been through them. They are, using my slotting saw. Great piece of kit. It cuts to depth, it cuts the right size curve, it cuts an exact 1/2 millimetre cut or 1/2 millimetre width curve. So they're less, not as wide as a regular blade. And yeah, great piece of kit. I get these blades, I think I got them on eBay. But you can get, you have to hunt around for the 1/2 mil ones. But your standard hacksaw blade. I believe it's nearly 0.6 mils, too wide for frets. So I'm just going through here, and I'll try and stay out of your way, and I'll grab an air canister in a moment and we'll blow all of that extra out. These are great, these cans of compressed air. Give them a good shake when they get a bit wet, and that'll clear some slots for you. I'm going to press the frets in on this one, so I'm going to over radius the fret wire, and I'm going to press them in with a 7 1/4 inch coil first, then with a 9 inch coil, just so we get the edges pressed right in. And once that's done, we'll come and press the middle with a 9 1/2. I've always found that works. Go with a tighter press on the edges. But there you go, that is now ready for frets. In the vise you see there, the green thing, is a fret bending tool. And I'm going to bend some fret wire for this job. It's 2 Mac fret wire. I need to walk to the other side, so I'm going to get to the other side. And all we do with this is I preset it to I think a similar thing that I need. I think it's set pretty much well, and I normally be stood in front of this, but because I want to show you how I do it, I'll try and do it from this side. And there you go, and I've got it, and I'm feeding it through, and it's just, there you go, you see that bending the fret wire like so. And I'm going to go again from the other end, and if this is set right, I'll have a slightly tighter radius than I'm actually going to need. I'm just going to check that against the neck, so I'll get back in the way there. I'm just going to check the radius against the guitar. So from that side, slightly over radiused, very, very slightly over radiused, but I'd like to over radius that just a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to loosen the back, and I'm going to just loosen that a tad. A little bit is a lot with this. Now I could probably use this machine from the other direction, but I'm going to try it from here. There we go, we're just going to make that. Don't know if that's doing anything. I may not have moved it enough. Don't think that's doing anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen, take it down a bit, and go back in. I'll just give that a little bit tight, making that a little bit tighter. And there you go, a great piece of kit. I've had this bender, I bought it from Canada a long time ago, 7-8 years ago. And there you go, and let's have a look now, see what I'm thinking. Yeah, and that's a much tighter radius, look at that. That's well over radiused, and that's what I want. I want it over radiused. I'm going to press it in with a 7 1/2 inch coil, again, which is over radiused. I've got to slightly over radius this a bit more for the tighter end. So I might have a job getting this in. Now it doesn't want to go in like that, probably set it too tight. Should be able to do it this way. See how strong I am today. There you go, we've got it. And that is a much tighter radius, look at that. But that is workable. And I don't mind over radiusing it like that. That's going to be fine, I can work with that. I'm going to work with that down at the tight end. So we can get that back in. There you go. And that's well over radius. But that, again, will work because I like to press the edges in first. So there you go, you can see where we are with that there. Over radiused. That's going to work so well. Not gluing them in, just going to press them in. And I'll be using a hand press, using this gubbin here. using this, doing it all by hand. Back tomorrow with that. So this refret I'm going to do slightly different. I'm not using my press over on the other bench. I'm actually going to use my hand press. And this was not, it's not a StewMac one, it was a cheap one from imagine somewhere in Asia, and it's not that brilliant. It does tend to go off to the side if you use it too tight. So I'm going to take my time with it and use it correctly. So what I'm doing is, first I've got a 7¼ inch radius caul in there, and that is going to help me get the edges in first. So I'm going to press with that one, and then I'm going to finish off with the 9½, like so. But also what I'm doing is, this has quite a wide tang, this fret wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut each fret. I've really over radius this, and I'm going to cut as I do them. And because they're over radiused, I'm going to slightly, because these tangs, as wide as they are, I'm going to slightly widen the tang using this StewMac tool, because I want to make sure these get a real good grip. Because fenders have a quite a slightly wider slot. So all I'm going to do with this is you stick the fret in there, and you just press with this crimper tool, just gently. And I'm just going to put an extra bit of crimp in there, not a lot. Just a little. I'm just going to give it a little bit, not too much. In fact, you'll hardly notice. But I do like to do this. So I've got extra little bit of crimp. Let me show you how these work. Bring it up to the camera. And they give an extra little bit of crimp. And that just helps the fret stay in a little bit better. There you go. And that's plenty extra there. And what I'm going to do is, we just line up and clamp and press in. I don't know how much press I've got on that. I might need a little bit more, but that seems okay. And that's pressed in beautiful. Really, really nice. That shouldn't slip off like that. And then what I'm not going to do this each time, but I'm going to swap the caul for the 9. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to get them all in using my 7½, and I'm going to swap over to a 9-inch caul, or a 9½-inch caul, and that's going to press the middle in as well. So it's just a matter of getting that in. And I'll check how they're seated. We should all seat absolutely fine. Just going to give them that little bit of extra crimp. So let's have a look at this one. This should now press the middle down too. And it should make them hold just that little bit better. And there you go. And that's in with the 9 as well. And you'll see what I mean about that pressing in. It just tends to go off to the side. And I don't like that. And I shouldn't have bought this cheap one. I say cheap, it's still 70 quid. But that fret is in beautifully. And if I have to, I will go and hit them with a fretting hammer. There's a couple of ways I could do this. I could stick it in the old StewMac. But I don't like doing that because I still think it marks the neck. I could do it that way and that way, but I'm just going to put some support underneath. Like so. Maybe I'll use 2 pieces like so. Yeah, that's beautiful. And if my fretting hammer is about, which it is, I will just gently, with the nylon side, give it a couple of taps. And that looks to be seated beautifully. And there you go. So that's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to get them all in using the 7½ caul, 7¼ caul. Then I'm going to come and press in with the 9½ caul a little bit later on. And as I do them, I will snip fret ends off like so. And then we'll just gently tap again. How's that? Beautiful. So I'm going to crack on, get these done, and I will show you the results tomorrow. On what was meant to be a day off, or is a day off for many people, this September bank holiday, I really do believe this late to rest business has dragged on for more than long enough. So I'm not having a day off. I'm in the workshop and I'm cracking on getting things done, which I really love to do. So what I'm doing today is well, I've already done. I've made up some cables today. I'm now going to move on to this refret. And what I'm doing is, before I go and file off the edges and create the bevels on the edges there and on that side, then do the level and the crowning and the polishing, I'm going to just check that all the frets are seated properly. And if there are any high spots, I'm going to hammer them down. And if after I've hammered them down there's still high spots, I'm going to leave them there. And we are going, there was one there, look. And we are going to level the frets as they are. So I know there's a high fret there. So making sure I don't do the hammer handle and put grooves in the neck, I'm going to make sure I've got the hammer going on straight. And I'm just going to firmly, but not, I'm not whacking them, just going to firmly, but uniformly tap down these frets. And that's knocked that right in. I'll go back and check one behind, make sure it's not altered, popped another one out. Now, because I've oiled this neck so many times, some of the oil would have got in under the grooves of the fret, and it would have. Maybe acting as like a gap filler, so if there's any gaps in there, one, because it's wet, it'll like to swallow the wood a bit, and maybe something's popped out, but if nothing else, it could probably more or less glue the frets in, and that one's going in really nice now. So I'm just checking everywhere, and that's high there, so I'm going to just keep going. You're always going to get some high spots. Even if you put them in really, really carefully, it just happens. As long as they are seated right. Look at those, they're going beautiful. Well, we've already gone in, but we are knocking them all in so well. We're not going to have that much leveling to do later on. That one is, wow, that is as high as a kite. I thought it was when I looked earlier. It's what made me come back and give these another knock in. Also, you're going to want to eyeball them at the edges and make sure that they're rolled right over at the edges. Now, the neck has got, it is not a uniform colour, but the guy who owns the guitar says, you know, the worse it looks, the better it is. That's why I'm glad I took off all the lacquer, and I've given it loads of other more coats of lacquer, and there's some black got in there from whatever. But he says, don't worry about any imperfections in there, because he wants it relict and imperfect. Even though he wants he's going to get a perfect fret job, obviously. He says, but don't worry about anything, any marks on it, the more the merrier, he says. Really happy with that. And this is still saying high everywhere, and that's fine. I forgot which one it is. Talking myself out of doing a good job here. That'll never happen. But all these beforehand I've already done off camera. That's nice. And again, that's still high in the middle there. But if I eyeball them and they're seated well enough, I'm not going to worry about them being high. Because they're sturdy, they're stable. And we'll do the level. Don't forget the level, the playing surface is the tops of the frets, not the fingerboard. I always emphasise this. The playing surface is the tops of your frets, it's not the fingerboard that some people think. But yeah, these are all in nice. Now what I'm going to want to do, so when I'm doing the bevels, make sure I don't cut into the edge of the fingerboard or the edge of the neck, because we don't want to be ripping anything off there. But it's quite easy to do, you just got to take your time. I will tape up the edges of the neck. And when I hit the tape, I know to be more careful with my files. Because I don't use a beveling file anymore like I used to. It used to put an automatic 35 degrees in. They are inconsistent. You end up scratching more frets than you do beveling them. Well, you don't, but you can end up, if you scoot off, I find it's better by hand, because by hand I can have less of an angle. Standard are 35 degrees. I like about a 15 to 20 degree bevel. It gives you more fret width to play with. I'm sure my clients prefer it too, so I do it by hand with a file in my hand. And you'll see exactly what I mean later on when I get to doing it. I'm not bothered if I don't get this completed today. I do have an EVH Frankenstrat over there that needs work and needs looking at. And though there's no rush for it, I do like to vary my work. So normally I'll have 3 or 4 guitars in the workshop. And that means when I work on something, I get a little bit of thinking, oh, I've had enough of this one for a bit. I can drop off it for an hour and go and do something else. So that's what I'll do also with this. And it also keeps everything fresh. So let's check these frets again now. See where we are. And I think they're more or less level without actually having been levelled, which is fabulous news. A little high one there, that's not a problem. High one there on that edge again, but it seems to be seated perfectly. So give it a couple of taps and see where we are. And if it's still high, which it is, it's not a problem. We know it's seated right. So we'll get all the levelling done with when we get to level the lever. Still high, but that's great. It is seated nicely. I'll check that one because it looks like it might not be, but it is again. That's again a little bit of a rock, but well seated. So let's not worry about it. We'll give it a couple of taps again. You might be thinking, have you got that neck supported underneath? No, I haven't. Does it make a difference? No, not really. Is it going to bend the neck? Definitely not. These frets are relatively level now along the whole length of the neck. I love doing these kinds of jobs, you know, where you've not got to be, you're not going to worry about, it's not about putting dings in, I'm not going to put the dings in it, but you're not going to worry about the cosmetics of it. Don't get me wrong, if it's not said what it told me, I would be taking the best cosmetic care of this neck as well as the best refret care, you know, but because it doesn't matter. I put a couple of dings in, that's why I've got them black spots there, because when I put some felt on there, some dye must have come out of the felt, and that's why I've got those spots. But we have got rid of any dings we had in there. I wanted to take the lacquer off completely anyway. If you're looking at that, you're thinking so many inconsistencies in the colour of that neck, and you're absolutely right, and that's because I didn't take off all of the lacquer. The lacquer in this area, it's a bit of a dip in the neck, so I thought rather than take too much wood off, which I would have ended up doing, I decided to just set the range. We've got it close, we've got to where the lacquer is, so we've not really, you know, we've not gone as deep as we might have done, but I didn't want to take too much material from the neck, so I decided to make the level, again, the frets, we're still in there, we are talking an oomph, so there's a layer or two, just a couple of thin layers of lacquer still left on this area here. That's why it looks a bit darker. But again, the client says it's not a problem as long as the refret's all right. And there you go, the refret is more than all right. It's fabulous. So I'm now ready to do these beveled edges. And what I'm going to do is, like I've said, I'm going to line the neck with just some masking tape, some thin masking tape. Like so. I do have a, could do with just holding this, you know, vice. I do have a lovely small streamback vice here. And this is perfect for what I'm going to do right now. And I don't have to clamp anything, I just need to hold the neck in there. You can be freestanding like so. And I don't have to clamp it tight or anything. All I want to do is just get it held just there, just so I can run along the neck some masking tape. That masking tape's decided to end its life right there and rip itself early. It's with a bit of a bind. I've had this with some tape recently. What we're going to do is, because I don't want to go right into the wood. I'm going to put some tape there, and once I start curling tape up and hitting tape with my file, I'm going to know it's time to slow down with the file. Take the time a bit more, because there will come a time when I peel off the tape completely. I'll just do it by hand anyway. So let's again go here. And this is just as a marker for me. It's not doing anything great. You see that there? That's going to give me a line there. And once this tape starts getting hit by the file, it'll start curling, and I'll start hitting the tape, and then I'll know to really take my time on these edges. So I'll do it by hand, and I'll take a little bit more care, because I don't want to be scooting into the wood. Not that that's a big deal. I could always cover any scratches I do make or any indentations in the wood. I can cover them with some oil, again the same oil I've used for the top of the neck for the fingerboard. Yeah, I'm just going again. I don't know what is this tape. It's not the cheap stuff either. It's just being a kit. So I'll not be buying from that company again. It's no good if that keeps happening. So there you go again, look, it keeps catching here. So yeah, it's a bank holiday today. It's the day of their funeral there. What a performance. It's all you've heard of for weeks. And not me, because I don't have the news on. It's amazing how we can pay so much attention to a dead monarch who is not going to save anyone's soul. She's not going to get anyone into heaven. I'm a Christian, and Christ gets no glory here on earth at the moment. No one's talking about Jesus. You notice how the war's got a lot worse since he took Christ out of schools 20 odd years ago. Is that a coincidence? You tell me. Yeah, at least when we had Christ in schools, there was seemed to be more order to everything, being more discipline was better. Kids were less unruly. So is there anything in that? You tell me. I don't know. Well, I do know, but it's not doing on it too much. It's just fed up this funeral malarkey. It's all it's been on the thingy. An old woman died. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Maybe 1 million old women have died since. And no one's mentioning them. Anyway, there we go. So that's all taped up. I will go and get this neck now in the other vise on the other bench, and I'll be taking my file and I'll be filing down these edges. I can't really show you an example of that. I will get the other bench set up, and I will turn the camera on and show you exactly what I mean shortly. So over on the neck bench, it's supposed to be my refretting bench, but it gets used for a variety of things. I've already gone across with this file. Now this file used to be held in a beveling block. It was a block, and it had this at 35 degrees, and you should run it across top of the frets, and this would be at that, and it would do the bevels for you. But I've started using, because it's a flat, straight, level file, I use it by hand. It's got a safe edge, not using much, but I use this by hand, and I do the bevels by hand. But first, I'm bringing the frets, I'm getting the frets level to the edge of the wood. And it's why I stick this tape here. So like I said to you, once I start hitting tape, I'm getting very close to the wood, you see. So I'm going to go at a slight angle. I'm just removing material and getting it close to the edge. Like I say, once I start hitting the paper, the file will let me know. It can come to an abrupt stop when it hits some tape, because the tape's place has got gum on it and it tries to roll. So we're getting very close to the edge there. The good thing about it is once I get close to the edge, I start putting in the bevel. So I start angling the file over. I'm going to do it all by hand along the whole length of the neck. And yes, it's a rough file, it's going to cut roughly, but I'm going to go over with a smooth file afterwards. Now if I start seeing bits of wood dust falling off the edge as well. I know I'm hitting the wood, and that's fine because I don't remove too much. And what I'll come and do then is I'll start to eyeball how much bevel I'm putting in. I'm putting a little in, and that's great. I already see I've taken a tiny bit off the edge of the fingerboard there. We're not worried about that because we can always stain this back up, get some oil on there, but we are getting smooth to the edge. So what I'm going to do is we'll change files, and again, like I said to you, remove this tape, and I can do it all by hand now. You are, guarantee it, as much as you don't want to, you are going to hit the edge of the neck with the file to some extent. Now if you've got a lacquered neck, you can always re-lacquer the neck. I asked you if you want to lacquer the neck lacquer, it's going to cost another 120 quid on top, and if you don't, then you've got to be careful not to hit the lacquer. But tell them, say, look, you're asking me not to hit the lacquer on this side, it's impossible, I'm going to hit it. So don't expect it to be fabulous when you get it back on that edge. There will be some scuffing somewhere, but we can keep it to a minimum. Now what I'll do is, once I've been with this file, I want to go with something smoother. Got my Swiss file, my Swiss number 4 cut, super smooth but super sharp, and it does have a flat side to it, this edge, more by chance than anything. It was not supposed to, it wasn't bought like that, but this is fabulous because this will help you get the edges of these frets right down to the wood without really marking or scratching the wood. Just go at get it flat and just go at a very, very slight angle, like so. And this is going to get it right, get the edges right down. And there's nothing you can't cover up using this file just by polishing out. Get some fine grit sandpaper, get a bit of oil on there, and that is it. And we are already smooth to the edge. You can't feel any sharpness there at all. There's some tape residue on there which we're going to remove. We could stick some what I normally use, so I would go with some white spirit on a cloth. I will just grab me some white spirit, and I'll take a cloth. A blue cloth I've actually used to put the oil on here, so it's perfect for the job. So take a little bit of white spirit on there and just down the edge, remove any tape residue there. And look at that. We've already got the edges of these frets. You can't even feel them. You can if you really, really press in, but that is so good. And all I'm going to do is take my Swiss file, flat side down. You can just hear the edges, look. But that's it, we are smooth to the edge. We're not cutting any metal there because there's no metal to cut, because we've done the job. So all I'm doing now is I'm going to create that bevel, and where we used a coarse file before, we're now going with a smooth file, and it's going to bring those beveled edges really well cut. I mean, this file is that fine, it almost polishes. But we're creating that bevel now. It doesn't take long at all. And again, I'm going to feel that's all super smooth. Beautiful job. You can't feel them fret edges, and they look wonderful. And I'm just going to check how much of a bevel I'm putting in, and there's nothing there. There's not even 10 degrees at this end. So we're going to take it uniform down the length of the neck at this sort of angle. And I do all of this by eye. I'm doing it like this a couple of years now. Still a long way to go yet, but they are beautiful. I'm going to do exactly the same to the other side. That feels so good. yeah, I can still feel a little bit of the edges, so I'm going to give it a little bit more oomph, a little bit more, and there you go, I can feel it cutting. So and that's it, superb, just beautiful. So that edge is so smooth, we don't need to drop any glue in the edges or anything. That's just really, really nice. So I'm going to flip my neck over, do exactly the same on the other side. I will then, when I'm in a better position, when I've got my neck flat, I can check the bevels are uniform each side. If not, we'll do a little bit of alteration. But that, my friends, is beautiful. I'm going to show you why I now do it freehand rather than use a file holder with a 35-degree cut. And these are the beveled edges I've already done. I hope you can see those. But the angle there, I've only got about a 20-degree bevel, which gives you a much wider fret than you'd normally have. Because that's all done by hand, freehand. And now, okay, I may have more control, but it is obviously more difficult because I don't have a set. Normally you do it with a holder and it goes across the top of the frets and it can only cut at 35 degrees, nothing else. But you in a way, even though you have less control, you have more control because you're able to set what angle you want. You can go 10, 15, 20 degrees. I always try to go round about 20 degrees so it gives you more width of fret. But we do have, you have to take your time, but I've got a lovely uniform bevel down the whole length on this edge. It's fabulous, and obviously I've still got to round these edges over and soften them so you don't feel them at all, but much more control. Now this side I've not done yet, so you can see there we're still overlapping. Well, I'm going to do exactly the same this side as I've done there, but this side is just wonderful. Really, really good work. Take your time with it. You can always tell when someone loves what they're doing because they make a good job of it, but that is all done freehand. And it's just fantastic, and it's the way I prefer to do it. So I'm going to do exactly the same with the other side, and once that's done we'll move on to the next part of the job. So let me just show you where we are with this neck, and the bevels could not have gone better. Look at the edges there of the frets. They're all beautifully beveled, both sides. I'm just showing how the frets are in. It's all super smooth down the edge. It's you'll see the bevels better from that angle. All beveled beautifully down here, all done by hand of course. I don't measure the angle, I would say that is 10, 12 degrees, 15 degrees max on each side, which is brilliant. It's much better than 35 because that takes too much fret off, so you've got much wider frets on this. I'm still giving it more coats of oil, by the way. I'm just giving it another coat. I've coated the edges as well, just where the file may have just scuffed a little bit. You're not going to tell. You do get a little bit of scuffing, but yeah, fantastic. But I'm still giving it another couple of coats here and there, and I'm letting that, so it's got to dry now, so I'm not going to do any more on that today. What I need to do next with this is I need to level the frets. Once the frets are leveled, I'll do the recrown. Once the crowns are, I can't do these beveled edges and roll them over and smooth them off until I've got the crowns in. So still a lot of work to be done on this. I may get some more done today. It all depends how much oil I want to pour in. I want to get all my oil on the neck before I level the frets, because obviously some of the oil is going to cover the frets and I'm going to need to file that off at some point. But that's where we are with this neck so far, and really, really pleased with it. The great thing about it is, cosmetically, the guy says I don't care what it looks like, just as long as it's done right. He says, but it does mean a lot to me. But he wanted all this. He says if the oil goes in and it makes imperfections and daft stains and that, it'll be fantastic, and it has done. There's been a couple of dark stains enter it in this area as well, and a couple here and there, and some of the oil's penetrated more places than others, so it's given us that. We could not have planned it, we could not have known it was going to do that, but we'll accept it, won't we? Absolutely brilliant. So that's as much as I'm doing on that right now. I'm going to move on to another project, so later. Okay guys, cracking on with this refret, well not refret but leveling. Now then, when I'm just sent a neck to level, I bolt it to a piece of MDF. It's 30mm thick. I use this as a surrogate body on many projects. Great piece of kit. It's just got some holes drilled in here and there. But what I like to do is when I'm leveling is I use any bolts I've got knocking about. These are proper fender bolts, the big fat ones. Any plate I've got knocking about. And what I do is I bolt to this piece of MDF, but I do have two shims underneath to lift it off, because that way we get the neck lifted off at this end as well. Where are you? You can see it there. You can just see it there. So we lift it off there. And what that enables me to do is to alter the truss rod, get the neck dead straight. And once it's dead straight, I pack underneath with some business cards. So it's nice and sturdy, it's level, it's packed underneath both sides, and we can't get any movement in the neck. It's a much easier way than sticking it onto the neck jig, as I have done in the past. So I'm just going to grab me a screwdriver, because we do have it's adjustable at this end, at the far end. So we're just going to have a look in there, and I'm going to see where we are. That's loose at the moment, and it's just off straight. I'm just going to give it a little turn and see where we are. And I think that's going to be just about straight where we are right now. And my friends, that neck is dead straight. And that's beautiful. I don't think we need anything underneath at our end. It's looking pretty much like we've got a straight neck. We don't need any packing on. Let's see if we can get anything under there, but I doubt I can. Doing some business cards and knocking about. I did have a pullet of them somewhere. I don't know what I've done with them. Here we are over here, look. Grab a couple of the Refret friends. I ordered 2,000 of these last time I ordered them, because I thought I'm not going to change anything. I've not changed this design in something like 3 years. It's all got exactly the same information, because I don't put address information on there. But they're 3 years and they're brilliant, so the design is still online. But anyway, let me have a look, see where we are with this. Don't think we need to put anything underneath anyway. Not sure, you know, not sure. It feels like there is right where it needs to be. Let me just have a look. That neck is dead straight. So we are there for the levelling. So we're not going to see if we can get this anywhere else. There's a little bit there, that's it. But that's only because it's the edge of the where the headstock slides up. So don't really need, I'm going to leave that one there, but that's it. It's all we're going to need. So what I'm going to do is we are going to go over with Fret Rocker and check where we have any high ones. Not expected to have many, but we'll mark them up. Now what I don't want to do here is I don't want to draw on the fingerboard, because there's no lacquer on there anymore, it's just oil. And if we mark it, we're going to mark it. So what we're going to do is, just going to check the frets. That was a tiny bit there, hardly anything. I'm going to mark every bit where there's a high spot, just so I know where to concentrate. And a tiny bit there. Let me move, get this more central to the camera. There you go. That's how I wanted it anyway. This just helps me identify where I need to work the levelling beam a little bit more. So just around the middle on that one. I'm going to hit it with the levelling file before I hit it with the levelling beam. I shouldn't need to remove. That one's really high on that side. Just make sure it's sat right. It is sat right, so we're going to hammer that one. So we're just down here. We'll get it with the file, don't worry. And this is normal after a refret. You bang them in and you let them settle, and you bang them again and let them settle again, and they're going to settle where they settle. hard to find out where we start. We start there and it finishes there. Again, I'll check that that is seated correctly, and it is. You know, end of the day, we just have to go with what it's telling us. Now I've beveled the edges slightly, but we don't roll over these bevels yet because we're going to come and level them and it's going to flatten the top. So we roll these bevels over once we've re-crowned them again. So quite a lot of work to go yet. It's had some hours in it, this has. I'm doing this too cheap at 250 quid, I can tell you. But you know, that's me. Starting there, this is high or more or less all the way across. So there's some height here. I'm gonna again just look, see if that's raised up. It's raised up a tiny bit, but not that much. I'll leave that where it is because sometimes they don't seat all the way down. We may have the slots not so tall or big on that side, but don't forget, I hammered these in a couple of days ago. You watched me do it. So with them being hammered in now and done again, we already know that they are seated as they will be. There's no point trying to hammer them in again. Very good up this end. Let's see where we are. So very nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we've got high spots on 15 frets, but nothing major. I'm just having a look at that last one there because I'm wondering if that's just seated a little bit high. I'm just going to give it a couple of taps with a fretting hammer because the first and the last are the most critical because everything gets levelled between that one and that one. So we're just going to make sure that one is seated right. And that looks absolutely fine. So, before we level with the beam, we're going to hit it with the file. My leveling file, absolutely wonderful piece of kit this. Got this from Chris Allsop. I got this on eBay, but he has got a website as well. It's based in the United Kingdom, England, and this is a leveling file, and it's precision flat, and it's a diamond file, and it's a quality piece of kit. It comes in the holder. I think I paid £27 for this. What a brilliant piece of kit it is. I'd like to give it just a quick brush before I use it. But what a lovely, lovely file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and hit all these black areas just to bring these level with the frets around them. And once we see scratches on that fret and that fret, we know we've got this one down where it needs to be. So we're just going to go on down the neck. It removes a lot of material in a short space of time, this file, so it really is a wonderful piece of kit. You'll notice I'm overlapping as I come down here. That's because the radius is from the last fret, so we follow it in a straight line. So by the time we get down here, we are overlapping. tend to give it a little bit more gusto at this end because we're filing a lot more frets because they're more spaced out down here. So that is looking like we've hit all the spots we needed to hit. Now when I'm working on an unfinished neck, rather than brush this off, but then you might be brushing it in, I like to blow this with some compressed air. So that's what we're going to do today. Only worse is take the lid off. Now this stuff is going to colour the neck. I will wipe it clean at some point and get a hit with a bit of chamois leather. But my client has said if it all dirties up and what have you, leave it. I want it to look aged and old and not so much relict, but you know. But anyway, so what we're going to do, we're going to go again with the fret rocker and see how we are. And that's certainly levelled those at this end. Still got a high one there, so I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit that on its own. Some of them do need a bit more work than others. That one does need a lot of work. So I'm going to go this way with it. Okay, not too bad, just on this edge. Not pressing down too hard and let the file do the work. Much better. So we have the high spots more or less all gone. It's a good thing. It is quite brutal, that file. And that's looking good. So what we're going to do to get all of them level with each other is a little bit high. I'm going to take another file. I'm going to actually spot level that one because it is considerably higher, and I don't want to be removing too much material from the frets next to it, otherwise we're going to have a dip in the frets. So check it again. I'm just going to go. This is my Swiss number 4 cut file. Very sharp but very smooth as well. Fantastic piece of kit, this one. It's my favourite file in the workshop. Which one am I doing? Forgot. It's that one there. And that one there. So I've got 2 high ones here. This is one where I'm in problems. So a little bit high on the edge, so a little bit high right on the edge, so we're just going to very, very close to where we want to be. So let's just check again. It's still a tiny bit high, that's just about okay. Just in this spot here. Seems to be just about right. Next one now is a little bit high, so we're just gonna, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pen all of these and we're gonna go across with a leveling beam. We're gonna do the lot. I've hardly removed anything from this last fret, which is brilliant. We've removed only a little from the far fret again, which is brilliant, because they are the two markers. So everything in between now I want to level with each other. So I'm going to pen all of the frets. I'm going to go over with the beam. So when it comes to a leveling beam, I bought mine from Crimson Guitars. It's milled both edges. It's 2x1 inch box section. It's milled both edges perfectly flat, or as perfect as close as you can get to perfectly flat. And I have 240 grit emery board on one side and 400 grit on another. And we're going to remove the main material with the 240 grit. So now I've explained the piece of kit, you kind of know what to expect when I get it out. And there you go. Crimson Guitars, great piece of kit. Got 240 grit emery on the base, 400 grit emery on the top. It's been used a few times, but it will still level. It lasts for yonks. I buy this on a roll. I think it's a 25 or 50 metre roll I've got. It will last for ages. But anyway, we're going to level the whole lot. So with the 240 grit, this is one for removing material and getting the levelling done. And we're looking for silver tops on all of the frets. And there we are silver topped along the whole length. Just a couple of small spots which I'm just going to hit now. Not pressing particularly hard, just letting the beam and the emery do the work. And all of the tops are silver, bar this little bit. I'm just going to check here because there may be one high fret just next to it to stop us hitting that one. It normally is one on the opposite side, so I think it's going to be this one. And there you are. That's the one where the problem was before. So I'm just going to spot level this one again. Which fret I'm working on. Sometimes it maybe we'll just add an angle, a little bit at an angle off there. I'll just slightly cut to the fingerboard there. You know what? The client will not mind that. So again, still a little bit high on that edge. There you go. We've now got it seated right. So we're going to go again. We're going to pen the tops of the frets again. Just give it a blast of air. But look how this is making the fingerboard look all aged now. Client's going to love this. What I might do is I might seal that in with some oil a little bit later on. I've taken a bit off more this side than that side, so I'm going to even that up in a moment. We're going to hit it now with 400 grit because we've got all of the level, we've got the frets at level. So we're going to look at removing some of the deeper scratches with the finer grit paper. So we're going to hit it with 400. Before I do the crown and everything, I'm going to hit this with another coat of oil just to, once I brush this, to get some of this colouring inside the board itself, because my client will like that. So okay, with the 400 grit now, the finer grit, we'll just give that a little clean. And it shouldn't take too many strokes I'm concentrating a little bit more on this far side because I removed a little bit more material on the near side, so I'm just going to bring it up to match it up a little. I'm now looking for a uniform line from this side to that, from this side to there. I'm going to do a little bit more of a 240 on this side because I'll remove more on the near side. Not a lot in it. And finish off again with the 400. That's it, the frets are level. So brushing this off, the clients will be so happy with this because it's made the fingerboard look really, really old. Now I'm going to give it a clean, but let's just go over with the fret rocker and check that all these frets are level. Client will be so happy with this because it looks really, really aged. And again, that's more fortune than skill. He said to me, you know, if you're taking the lacquer off, it all just look even better for him because he wants it. He likes it to look relic anyway. So fantastic, so I'm really pleased with this. Taking a picture in a minute. I'm going to put another coat of oil on there. I should have put another coat on later. The reason being I want to do it later is if I put oil on now, my tape is not going to adhere to the fingerboard when it comes to doing the crowning. So it'd be foolish to put it on now. I'm just going to clean up the fingerboard. I'm not cleaning it up, I'm going to give it a quick wipe. That looks beautifully aged. Don't want to be adding more oil to it just yet because it's had about 12-14 coats, but that's gone in beautifully. Now remember, the plane surface is the tops of the frets. By the way, the frets are all level, which is wonderful. He's going to love this. I'm still waiting on I'm still waiting on a bone nut to arrive for this guitar because I don't have any blank bone nuts in stock or blanks in stock, so I've got nothing to cut one from at the moment. They should be here before the 26th. I've ordered 2 lots. That is looking superb. So he is going to love the way that looks because he wanted it aged, so that is really going to cheer him up. So I'm going to get the fingerboard all taped up. I'm going to move on to the next part of the process, which is crowning the frets. What we've done is we've levelled them, we've got flat tops. We need to put that crown back in. Once that crown's back in, we can then roll over these beveled edges and make those all soft as well. You can see from where you are, way back there. Now I'm creating a small bit of fall away from fret 15 onwards, and what that means is from fret 15 we're going to gradually slope the frets down toward the last one, the 21st one. And all we do to create that fall away is I'll take a piece of, this is from a can, a drinks can, I'll cut a strip off and I have it taped over the 15th fret, so the levelling beam can only hit the frets from 15 onwards. And with that held in place like so, I'm just going to create a very, very small bit of fall away. I'm not going to hammer it all the way, but toward the end, each fret is going to gradually get lower by a very, very small amount. And I'm only doing it from fret 15 onwards. And that means we're not going to get any fretboards. I've already removed as much as I want to remove. But that will just create that little tiny, it's very, very slight slope going down towards the 21st fret. And it's not something I always do. I just fancied doing it on this guitar. And I think that's enough. Get more to the edges. And that is it. I don't know why I felt we need to do it on this one. I just thought it's going to help out. Because I don't have the actual guitar here, it's not going to hurt it, creating a little bit of fall away. So there you go. So that's that done. And now I'm ready. So I'm just going to check that we've got no high ones there now. We shouldn't have. They should have all gone quite uniformly. But they will gently be falling away from the 15th fret down to the 21st. No, they are, we've maintained that level. We're talking a minuscule amount because I've not given it any hammer. So what I need to do now is we are going to tape up the fingerboard, or we're going to try to. Now I did this before once when I'd oiled the neck, and the tape did not stick to the neck, so I'm expecting it not to stick here, and which means that my job's going to be a little bit more difficult, but we will persevere, same as I had to do before. As long as the tape feigns sticking, you know, it sort of sticks a bit, we'll be alright. I'm expecting it not to stick at all though, but let's see where we are. The reason I'm using the thicker tape is because I used a lot more of the thinner tape earlier, and I like to use the same amount on each one at the same time, and I'm already behind on the inch thick stuff. See, look, that is not sticking to the guitar. I don't think it would, and we're going to have to make do. We're going to have to work around it, aren't we? Nothing else I can do. I mean, that said, it's no great shakes if I get the fingerboard dirty. But yeah, that tape is just peeling away because I've oiled it, you see. So it's not going to stick on the top either, but at least the tape will stick to the tape, I imagine. We'll soon find out. End of the day, regardless of what it does, got to persevere with it. Oh, this tape is crap. I don't know what it keeps ripping. It's been doing it. It looks like I've got a dodgy roll. I'll not be buying from them again. I've got it from a place on eBay. It's good tape. I've been using it for years. It's just something's gone wrong with it. It just keeps ripping on this edge here. Look at it here, look. I have to persevere with it, aren't I? Because I haven't got anything else. So this is where the job's going to get a bit tricky for me, because I need this tape to stick, and it's semi-sticking. So let's see how we're going to get on with it, because we need to tape up, leaving just the frets exposed. And they will stick to the tape, so as long as tape sticks it'll be alright. If it stays on the edges, see how we are. But yeah, I love doing refrets. It's why I'm fret friend. There's less profit in doing fret work, but I love doing fret work, if you know what I mean. It's like my least wallpaper job is fret leveling, because it's 135 quid for a complete fret level with a setup, but it takes 4.5, 5 hours. So there's least money in that, whereas you take a standard setup, I can sometimes do a standard setup in just over an hour, and that's 50 quid. Right, how are we looking there? When we've done what we've just done there, for instance, I just need to slightly, that's just not quite up to the edge, but it's up to the edge enough. Let's see how we get on with these. I mean, this is to stop us getting the fingerboard all mucky, but I suppose in this case it don't really matter. But, you know, just keep it clean, keep it tidy. I always try and finish these two rolls at the same time. I've got 1 inch and 19mm there. And I try and use the same amount of each when I'm taping up. It just, you know, just more convenient for them both to run out at the same time. Because I can then replace them both at the same time. I don't even cover that, but I'll cover this area. I will be giving this whole thing, once I've done the frets, got them all polished up, I will be giving it another coat of oil, which will just hold any of these, any of this aged colour in. You couldn't, if you were asked for a neck to be done like this to make it look aged and old like this, you'd be charged 500 quid. And I've done this more or less for nothing. Charged 250 quid for a refret. Now I suppose I could have pinched the tape over here rather than ripped it down the middle. There's the pinch method, which I've used myself. The pinch method is maybe because I've got oil on my board. What you do is you stick down one side, you stick down another, then you just, it's the fold method there, look, pinch and fold like that, and you're still protecting the fingerboard with the frets exposed. Let's see how much of that we can get away with, if any, of course. Like that, you see, and it saves us having to rip the darn stuff. And we've got 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9. You can leave 3 at the end, so I'm going to do 9 of each. I'll take this end up here. So bank holiday yesterday, September bank holiday, end of September, day of laying to rest. I've had enough of all, I've not been watching it. The Queen died, we all know the Queen died, but didn't they drag that out? No offence to those royalists, I'm not a royalist, but the Queen's the Queen, you know, and any death is sad. You know, we don't wish death on anyone, do we? But didn't they drag that out? Goodness me. An old woman died, mate. I've thousands more since, and they're not all over telly, are they? No, I'm not doing the fold method up there, it doesn't work. Anyway, I'm just chuntering, aren't I? I'm just, nothing to complain about. But anyway, so I come in yesterday, and I did an on the bench video. I've not done an on the bench video for years. I used to do them a lot when I started out. But my on the bench videos back then were what I had on the bench that week. Well, I was doing about, I wasn't doing 4 a week when I started out. I'm doing 4 a day now. So the on the bench video yesterday was just for the day, and I had 4 on the bench. This is one of them. I had a jolly good day out of it. I don't think I made this one wide enough, have I? Oh, is this one over here? Come on, mate, get a grip. It's not like we get money for saving tape. So anyway, this is the way I normally do it, by overlapping. You have to go thin at the ends here, because it's easier using this than it is using the 6mm stuff, because the 6mm stuff tends to go odd shaped when you stretch it. This doesn't. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm just taping up the fingerboard, leaving the frets exposed so we can work the frets. I'd love to be able to tell you guys right now I'm going to be doing this full time, but I still don't have the client base for it. Things I don't advertise. Everything's done by word of mouth, and I suppose if I advertised I'd be alright. But I don't quite have the orders and the client base to say, right, I'm going to go full time. Because I don't advertise, there's so much competition out there. I mean, don't forget, I've been sending work to other techs, which I do. I might have a word with my mate Danny Lint down in Leicestershire, because he's inundated, and he always says to me, he says, look, if you get slow up a bit, you want to take some of the load off me. So that might be possible, but it means me having to drive down Loughborough to pick up a batch of guitars, and but I don't know if he's got. I know he's got a massive. His waiting list is bigger than mine. I mean, I've told people on my list, I tell you, like 3-4 months. Now, because I'm doing it full time at the moment, the queue is whizzing down to the point as I might run out. So we've got to see where it goes. I'd love to do this full time, but don't get me wrong, I do love my job at Raw Mail. So see how it goes. I'm only here maximum. I'm only going to be here in England for another 2 years maximum. Hopefully, all being well, we're going to move to Canada next year. Me and my wife. For those of you that don't know, my wife is Canadian. She wants to be close to her family. I want her to be close to her family. My kids, my youngest is 29. My oldest is 31, I think, something like that. He's not talking to me at the moment. Again, he don't get on with me being a Christian, because he's not. And anyway, I don't really need to dive into anything about that. Anyway, that's what it is. But end of the day, we are moving to Canada, hopefully next year, 2023. We've gone in, we've put the paperwork in, we've paid the solicitor or solicitors. They are not cheap. I'm talking, because I don't really have a criminal record. I was going to say criminal record. I have a record from my youth. I mean, the last thing of any note I had on my record was in 1988. And I've got to get pardons for stuff that happened 34 years ago. Because Canada is so funny about it. So, went to pay a solicitor, and it's thousands. And it's more than £5,000. It is a lot of money. In fact, when all said and done, well, it's going to cost about £6,500 when all said and done, which is not cheap, just for me to be able to go and live there. But end of the day, you know, at least I will want to go and live there, and that's fantastic. It's not like my wife could go without me, is it? But you know, so it all depends on how long that takes, because it could take anything from 8 months to 15 months or so. If it's going to be a 15-month affair, we're obviously not able to go next year. My wife at the moment is on her second year of teaching. She teaches teenagers and up to 18-year-olds. She's A-level or higher, or up to A-level. And she's bright as a button, my missus. She got first on her degree. She speaks French. Well, she's fluent in French. She's French Canadian, you see, but she's also fluent in French Canadian, English, and she can teach Spanish. So she's 4 languages now, missus. And the thing is, she can do the same thing in Canada. She's doing it. She works at secondary school here. She's in her second year, and as much as she loves it, it's hard work and it's a lot of hours. And in Canada, she can earn a lot more money. In fact, she could earn a lot more money as a translator, but she wants to be top level. So she's done half of a master's. I don't think she's going to finish her master's here. She's not going to be here long enough. but she wants to finish her masters. Now the thing is with her masters is it really ups your earning potential. From your masters to your diploma doesn't make too much difference, though it does look, no, PhD, sorry. Once you've got a PhD though, it does look brilliant, but they all make a difference to what you can earn. And she's on probably the lowest wage as a secondary teacher at the moment. They were all promised a minimum wage of 30,000 by the year 2022. Well, that didn't materialise, so she's earning less than that. Which I earn more than my missus. But then again, I've got this job and I work at Royal Mail. But you know, end of the day, it's all about earning as much as you can for as little work as you can. You know, nothing's getting cheaper. Everything's getting more expensive. And I know we probably don't feel the pinch as much as some of you guys out there do. You know, because, well, I've got 2 jobs and I've got this job. And this job is a well-paid job. I mean, don't get me wrong, but you've got to stick at it and you've got to put the hours in. I didn't earn anything last tax year. I didn't earn 5,000 quid last year. My expenses were as much as that. In fact, my expenses were more. I give to the church. I gave more than what I earned last year to the church. We gave about 4.5 grand to church last year in tithes and gifts and what have you. But I earned nothing from this last year. I think I earned £4,500. Okay, I was shut from November. But yeah, no money at all last year. In fact, it was costing me money to stay open. But anyway, I've still got no complaints. So there you go. That's a fingerboard all ready for crowning. So I may as well explain crowning. And you're going to have to see from where you are, because I've explained this so many times before. So I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to move the camera a little. I'm not moving the camera physically. I'm just going to move it on the tripod to show you where we are there. Excuse me. I'm just going to zoom in on this area, this sort of area. So I'm going to show you what I mean by crowning. And I think you all know what I mean. Those of you watching it know what I mean. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pen over 3 frets. I'm going to do these 3. So you should see from where you are, the tops of these frets are now flat. Fret wire has a crown. You can see that it has a crown like that. Then we're going to rebuild that crown here, and to do so nowadays it's a lot easier than it used to be, because we used to use a 3-edge file and we used to, with safe edges, and we used to roll it over and build it up gradually. Nowadays we've got files that do the work for us, and I've got this lovely crowning file here that will do the crown on its own, but I don't think they're good enough on their own. I've got this from Stumac, it's a Z file, and it's got 2 cuts. And closest to you is a shallow but long cut, then you've got a steep cut but short, then it's a diamond file again. And what this does is you flip it 180 degrees, it's got the opposite cuts. The great thing about this file is it will not touch the top of a fret. Now why don't we want to touch the top of a fret? I'll answer that for you. We don't want to touch the top of a fret because we've levelled them all along the whole length of the neck, so we don't need to remove any height, but we do need to rebuild that crown, and this file will do exactly that. And I'm going to need a cloth or a rag to keep it clean. But what's this? We're looking for a thin line on the top of the fret. It's a few strokes, it's nice and smooth. Turn it over, and it cuts different cuts on the opposite side. So 2 cuts each side. And that has left a lovely thin black line down the centre of the fret. And once we've done that, we're going to go over with the crowning file, and we're just going to remove any inconsistencies. So I don't go straight over the top, I just go over the edges. Then I just do the edge this side and the edge that side. And it's just going to roll these edges over, and it's giving us a beautiful crowned fret. So as always, we always clean the file after a fret. And again. And this is really easy. Does the work for you. So it can tell you when you've cut enough, and so it can get a lot smoother. And how easy is that? Nice thin line down the centre. On that edge, and on that edge. Look at that, it's even rolling over these edges for us. I'm still going to go over with another file later on to roll them edges properly, but that's how we recrown, or we crown, the frets. And these are now beautifully crowned, those two. I'm going to show one more. The rest I'm going to do off the camera, and that's why we wipe the file. I am also going to show you how I roll the beveled edges at this part of the video, rather than come back later and show you later, because I'm going to do it all in one fell swoop. But look at that, that's why we wipe the files. So you get 3 beautifully crowned, but we're not finished yet. We now need to roll over those beveled edges. And again, another file, and another Stumac file. And we're going to give it a clean and a wipe. And this is for doing exactly that job. It has got a safe edge on the bottom, safe edge on the top. We don't worry about that because it's the bottom one we're worried about. And it cuts that side and this side. And all we're going to do is we're going to roll over these bevels, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 over the middle, 5. You could do that in 3 when you're really good. So again, we're just rolling over there. We've got a safe edge on the bottom, so it's not cutting anything. And that is just rolling over those bevels there. And that's going to give us a nice smooth fret when we come to polish it later. And there you go. To do this side, I'm going to have to turn the neck round 180 degrees. But there you go, and I don't do it until I've rebuilt the crown, so there's no point doing that because we've still got a flat top. But there you go, so I'm using 3 files. I'm creating the crown and I'm rolling over the beveled edges, bringing them nice and smooth. We'll also sand over these later on, and I'll show you a bit more about that when I move on to the polishing. So that's it. I'm going to do the rest of it off camera. It's going to take me a while, so I'll be back in a bit. So now we're ready to polish the frets. And what I like to do before I start polishing the frets is I like to roll over these edges, the beveled edges, just with some old 600 grit like I have here. And it's just a matter of giving some of that. Just in case there's any sharp edges I've missed, this is going to soften them over. I do both sides, of course. Like I say, this is some old 600, so it's been used a few times. It's still got plenty of life in it. Very nice. Flip it over, do the same with the side. So they're done. So what I like to do is I'm going to go across with 6 different grits of sandpaper for the polishing, and we've got 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1500, 2000 grits. But before I do that, I like to hit it with some 400 grit. Now this 400 grit is on a thicker paper, and this will get rid of the scratches. Now remember, we'll put scratches in this way because that's the way the levelling beam went. So this is going to remove, this will remove those scratches, and at the same time it's remove a black pen from the top of the fret. I'm doing it the wrong way around, that's why it doesn't seem familiar. You'll notice I've got an adapted glove. I always do this, leave those 2 fingers full and these free, because these are the 2 I normally polish with. So some 400 grit straight over the top of the fret, removing all the black pen and removing the scratches, makes them easier to polish later on. So going with 7 grits, finish off with steel wool, so that's 8 polishers, 8 21s. I'll you tell me what it is. 168, isn't it? 168 frets on polishing in effect. And it's going to take me a while. And the problem with wearing a glove is your fingers tend to slip off, so I'm going to take it off for the time being, because it works much better on this 400 without a glove. Anyway, this is going to take me a while, a good long while, so I'm going to crack on to get it all done off camera. And when I've done, when I get to the final polishing stage with steel wool, I'll bring you back in. Just to explain, we go with finer grits. So we're going to start 400, 600, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 2000 grit, because it just removes the scratches completely. By the time we get to a 2000 grit, scratches will be completely gone. And when we finish off with the steel wool, these will be glass-like. You will see your face in them. So they will be wonderful. We are now right at the end of the polishing stage. I've gone across with 7 different grits of paper, using a finer and finer grit each time. And I'm just finishing off with a steel wool, which brings them up. It is a little bit dull until you get the steel wool on there. And this is the super fine steel wool. It's the finest grade you can get, grade 0000. Just a matter of pinching over the fret and just polishing like so. I don't use any metal polish or anything on the frets. It's all done with sandpaper. Finish off with steel wool. We don't need any product on there. And these frets are glass-like now. Scratch-free, glass-like and beautiful. So that's it. That is the frets polished. I'm not going to be able to use that steel wool again, so we'll get rid of that. Get rid of the sandpaper. You notice I removed it from a piece of MDF, and now we're going to remove the tape. And there's a reason why I put a strip down the side. It just makes it easier. Now, on some guitars you've got to be very careful, especially older ones, because this can peel off, bring lacquer off with it, and it has done in the past. It's nothing more than embarrassing. It can't be helped. But there you go. We're going to remove all this gubbins here. You see all the muck that's gone through to the fingerboard there, and the owner's not going to be angry about that. He says the worse it looks the better for him, because he wants it looking aged and used, and that's brilliant for me. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give it one more coat of oil on the fingerboard, just to seal everything in. I don't know why that tuner's on. There you go, there's that. Last piece of tape coming off now. And there you go. And the owner of this is going to love it, because like I said to him, structurally it'll be absolutely sound. Those frets are wonderful. They're beautifully polished. That's all finished up, but the fingerboard, he's going to love it like that, because he wanted it looking aged. What have you? And he will be so happy with that. Next thing I've got to do now is I've got to cut and fit a nut. Now I've just had some new blanks delivered. There you go, but they are too wide. Now these are not blank blanks, these have actually got grooves cut in them for the strings, which helps a lot. But these are too wide, the 3.5mm, the slot is 3mm, so I'm going to have to go and sand the edge of this down. And I could do it on the belt sander, but that is it's too good. I'd reduce them to nothing, so I'm going to do it on a piece of sandpaper on a flat board is the best way I could do it. Just having a look here at what I'm going to do with this fingerboard. I'm just going to give it a squirt of good old mineral oil, which is the stuff we use for darker fretboards, you know, your rosewood and what have you. And we've got far too much on there, which is brilliant. So I'm going to let that soak in a little while. And it's nice and wet. I'm going to let that soak in, and that will lift any grime, extra grime, up just on the top there. I'm going to rub it all off in a short while. But that will also act as a barrier to anything else. Now then, where is my do-it-all? I've got a do-it-all rag that I use specifically for oil jobs, and this is it down here. Got it here. Just feeling the frets at the side. You cannot feel those frets. They are beautiful. I will go over with Scotch Brite pad later on, just on those edges, but we're nicely rounded over there. They're really smooth. And yeah, lovely fret job. So it just needs a nut putting on it. Once it's had the nut put on, I will bolt this to my Classic Vibe Telecaster, and I'll get it all set up. One other thing I've got to do is got to fit the tuners. Now they were all over the place. That one was all bent, that was all bent. So I've filled that all and that all in. These four are fine, but two outside ones need to do it again. So they've been filled in and they're now flush, and I can drill for I can drill once I've got all the tuners in straight. I'll drill that in, get them nice and straight, and the job will be a really good one. So that's it. I'm going to let that soak 5-10 minutes. I'm going to blob on something else, and I'll come back, and in fact I'm going to go and sand the edge of that nut. I'll show you exactly how I sand a nut. And obviously I'm not going to do it here, but I'll take a piece of sandpaper, put it on a flat surface, not this, a flat solid surface, and I'll just take the nut and carefully with my fingers and painstakingly, because it does take a while, I will sand it just by giving it some of that. Not on here, because this has got a, well, it's got a soft base, so that's how I'm going to be working it. It's going to take me a while. I want a nice even sand on that. I'm not going to put a belt sander, because I'll carve straight through that before you know it. It'll be nothing left. I actually tried one yesterday, and it went that thin. It was way too thin, and that was in about 10 seconds. So there you go. That's how I'm going to be doing it anyway. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to do it on an actual flat surface. So I will pull out my chest of drawers and use the top as I have done in the past. And that's going to take me a while, so I'll get that done off camera. We'll let that oil soak in. I'll come back and show you where we are soon. So I've sanded the nut so it fits. Nice fit, both ends, it's nice and tight, but I still have to do up to 5 ends, because these are a 44mm width and the neck is not 44mm, so I still need to sand the edges and make it fit perfectly. I will be dropping a little bit of glue in there, but not too much. Just see where we are there. I mean, we're touch and go whether we've got enough height over that first fret with that one, but I think we'll just about be okay. Something you got to watch out for with these nuts. But yeah, a beautiful fit that. So let's see where we are. Update later. When it comes to fitting my tuners, before in the middle were straight, but the two outside ones weren't, so I plugged both holes. And what we're going to do is we're going to fit these ready for drilling the new screw holes. I'm just going to remove some of this stuff. I know I've lost one. Oh no, I haven't. I thought I'd lost one of the one of the tuner screws, but I haven't. So just get everything out of the way. Was I going to use that for this? It's too late now. I've put a regular nut on there. Okay, and maybe I was going to use that. Oh, well, that's fine. If that nut isn't high enough, which it might not be, we'll swap over for that one. But anyway, these are staggered, one short than the other. This is a short one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the short one in And we're not going to drill any holes for it yet. We're going to get it lined up first. So I'm not going to do it in tight. Just going to get it in there loose. Same with this one, because these were in a real bad way. So we're going to set it right. Unfortunately, it's just the two outside ones, so it's not so much extra work. These are, I did mention my work. I've not charged for this. I didn't charge for sanding and reprofiling the neck. I've not charged for fixing these tuners either, or drilling the new holes. What we're going to do is going to leave these just a little bit loose so I can still move them, that's fine. We'll take a straight edge. Right, so then we're going to tighten them as they are there. And you could do it by eye anyway, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that now. Once it's straight, and it has just moved a bit, not worried about that, we'll get it back. And we'll just do a quick check. And that's straight, and that one is straight. So we're just going to go back with this one, we're going to tighten this one as well. And once they're straight, I can still move them if I want to, just and that. But if they are straight, they are straight. I can now drill the new holes, which I'm going to do in a moment. So I'm going to get something under there just to stop it wobbling. I'm going to drill some new holes. That'll be absolutely fine where it is there. Drill some new holes, we'll get these two screws in, and that will be the tuners all lined up nicely, all lined up straight. And we can get this finished. To be able to cut the nut correctly, I've got to put the neck on a guitar, and I'm going to put it on my Classic Vibe body. Just checking that the scale length is exactly the same. Even though that's 21 frets, oh, we're both 21. So just checking that everything's right. Yep, that's perfect, it's the right size. The frets match up, and that is going to work. So I'm going to crack on, get the strings off this, remove the neck, put this neck on here, use the same set of strings, because I need to change these strings on here anyway, so I may as well use old strings to get that nut cut right. But it's possible, but this nut is not high enough. But looking at mine there, we might just get away with it. I don't know, we'll have to have a look. With the neck now on my Telecaster body, I made some adjustments to get the setup right. I've got the action set a little bit high at the 12th fret, and I'm going to try and ascertain that we've got enough space under each of these strings to drop each string down. Now, I've set on the treble side, we're about 1.8 millimeters. That's top of the bottom of the fret to top of the top of the fret to the bottom of the string, and about 2.1 millimeters on this side. Ideally, I'd like 1.5 there and 1.75 here, but we're still yet to cut the nut slots. So, with my standard measurements, I would normally go on this side over the first fret with the action as it is, 0.3 millimeter gap this side, 0.2 that side, and if there's enough space to do all of that, we're going to keep this nut in, rather than cut a complete fresh one from a blank. These are part cut, these ones, when you buy them. They've already got the slots in. But they still need some work. So, just checking underneath, we're at pitch just about. Got enough there. About 0.25 on the next one. We're cutting it fine. That's cut perfect. That side's okay. If we're above 0.25, if we're above that, we're going to be fine. So we've got plenty enough there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure this one. I'm going to cut them as they are. Here's my Hosco set. I'm going to cut these for 1046. These are precision nut slot files, two of them in holders, the 13 and the 10, because they do tend to go a little bit wobbly on you. So we don't have a 17, but we've got a 16, which is the closest. For a 26 we use a 28, and we use a 36 and a 46. So I'm going to set the lowest at 0.25. And it's touch and go with this nut whether I can use it or not. So we're just taking the 46, we're just going to keep it level with the neck, cut in a straight line. And all we're really doing with this is cutting the width more than the depth, because I don't think we need to go much deeper. Do make sure you don't scratch these frets, because you've just installed them. Scratch them, you've got to take the strings off, you've got to polish them all up again. So you don't want to be doing that. I've done it once before. That's the E. That's fine. That's a 36, which itself is fine. I'm just going to widen the slot. I'm not going to cut any depth. So that file we've just used, the 46, we are done with. What have we done with it? It's right there, look. It's right there. So we can give that a clean. I'll put that one away. I would like half an hole at the top for it to sit into neatly. 46, so we're going to go with a 36, which is this one. And all we're doing is we're just going to widen that slot. We're not going to cut any depth. I just need the nut to sit, the string to sit in there. Don't need to cut any more depth. I think that's going to be too low. It is going to be too low. If I go 0.15, if that's too low, we're going to take that nut out and we're just going to put a blank, and I'm going to cut one from a complete blank. I think that's too low. I don't know. .15, that's too low. Right, forget that nut idea. It is too low out of the pack. I might have to send them back, because that's fresh out of the pack and it's too low. Certainly not going to buy them again. That one does just ping out. So no good these. It's cost me, I think it cost me 10 quid. For a pack of 10 from China. They're too low. I'll email them, they'll say, oh, we'll give you 40% of your money back if you can use them. I say, I can't use them, what's up with you? So okay, we're going to move that out. Going to lift this nut out if we can get it out. I didn't glue it in. No need to glue it in because it's tight anyway. There you go. You're too low. You're too low out of the pack, which is a shame. But here's one I made earlier. Here's a blank I made earlier. So we're going to go with one of these. I don't have a choice. Already pre-cut it, but it needs a lot coming off the height, as you can see. So that does fit in the slot perfectly. So I'm going to have to cut a complete blank from there. It's a beautiful fit. It's a bone blank. This is my last one. I saved it just for this guitar. So I'm going to go and skim some off the top with my belt sander. To remove the strings again. I don't like undoing the strings on these locking tuners because they tend to snap. But you know what, we're going to be okay. So this one, I thought I was going to get this one finished within the next hour. It's not. It's going to be a couple of hours again now because I'm cutting a brand new nut. Let's do this job right. I could spend a stupid amount of time with a file doing that, but I'm not going to do that either. Let me go and grab the right piece of kit. Let's do it right, shall we? The reason I want to get the strings out of the way is I'm going to draw on the top of that nut with, I'm not going to use half a pencil as some people use. I'm going to use a marker pen. And it will give me an idea of where I need to cut the top, because I'm going to go and do it on my sander, not drum sander, belt sander in a minute. Now, do I have one of these pens that works? See what we've got with this. I take a marker like so and just, there you go. And that's more or less going to give me the shape. So what I've done with that there is, I've got it locked in so far, I've got it locked in for nothing. There you go. I'll just mark with a pen where I need to sand that to. And I'm going to go and sand that. I'm going to sand it. I'm not going to sand it all the way down there. I'm going to leave it a little bit higher than that. In fact, no, sand it down to there should be right. I'm going to do that on the belt sander. I'll be back in a short while. There you go. And I've not been at the belt sander 2 minutes. I've just left the room, done that in probably a minute. So now I can get it, the rest of it done by hand. Using the old nut as a template, I've marked where the slots need to be on the new nut, and we have them all ready to go. And what I've done is I've gone in with an old file. I don't use these anymore because they cut a V more than a circle, but these are my old nut slotting files, and with the 10, the finished, I just put a mark in there. So I've got them all marked off for the new slots. This nut's already glued in. We'll do the final shaping with it on the guitar. So that's all pretty good there. So again, I'll take my 36, this is a 36, and we'll just start the 36 off. I'll start the 46 off with a 36. And then for 28, we'll use the 28, well 26. And we're just going to start them off. Final shaping of the nut will be done on the other bench once the string slots have been cut now. 16, we'll go with the 16. Or 17, we'll just flail it to the left and to the right at an angle just to open that wider for a 17 string. 13, we'll go with the 13. Like I said, this is on a holder. And the 10, we'll use the 10. And that's all of the nut slots started off. So what we'll do is we'll put these, well, I'll clean these properly after the next use. So there's a 36, there's a 26, or 28 if you want to be exact. So 46 is here. We've got a lot of leeway now because this nut is a lot higher than it needs to be. So, starting with the 46, let's get cracking. Anyway, you can see where it's going to go from here. It's going to take me quite a while to get this done, so I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to crack on and get them done. Next time you see this nut, it will be finished. So here we are again with a new nut, a nut blank. Like I said, I was going to do a lot of it offline, which I have done. Now I'm going to finish off the sorts. Now shaping, don't think shaping's done yet. We're going to shape it on the table a little bit later on. I'm just cleaning up my files because I'm going again to cut the depth on the slots now because we've got the angles right on spacing. Which one's a 6? That's a 36, want the 16 over there. It's a 10 and the 13. And I'm going to go slightly higher than I'd like to. I'm just going to stretch some strings in. I've not stretched them at all. These strings are no good to me now because they're unlocking tuners, they won't fit another guitar. spring because then we've got the right tension on my neck, and then once we cut the slots we're never going to be right for a correctly tensioned and correctly strung up guitar. Because this is the thing with only having the neck, I don't have a body to set it up properly. I've used surrogate bodies in the past. Right, so we can start again. So, I'll leave that one out of there. 28, 36, 46. So with the 46 we're going to measure, and I imagine we're going to be considerably high now. So the nuts I bought from China are no good to me. We're all going to be too low. So this one, 0.3. 0.3 millimetre. So fair way to go. Do not go too deep. Keep checking. Better. Just looking for a buzz, not getting the buzz just yet. That's the buzz we're looking for. Next one needs to be 28, so we need a bit more of a buzz on that one. But we are pretty close. That cannot be a wide enough slot because that can't be falling all the way down. Just doesn't feel right. Let's go in at an angle. That's better. Still not buzzing yet, that's good news. Yeah, get the right file, that's a 46. No, I'm done. I've got to go deeper anyway. I think that's going to be just where we need to be. If you want more of a buzz on that, I want that to be 28, nearer 28 than nearer to 30. So if I go with a 25, now we should just be getting, if we're trying it hard, we should just gauge out our buzz, see where we are. That's perfect. The 26, we don't need to move as much. Still sticking in the slot, so we need to work it just a little bit more. That being a 28, the string should drop straight in, no problem there. Just buzzing the 25, which is exactly what we want. So that's the bottom 3 strings done. I'm just going to make sure we're good in there and level. Beautiful. Next one, 17. Fair way to go with that. Now the next file we've got is a 16. So we're going to go in at angles just to widen that slot up a bit. And again there. Don't go too low with this one. If there's any I cut too low, it's normally this one. So we can go a little bit more. Still go a little more. Take your time, don't go too deep. Perfect. For these two, we're going to check with a 20. Because that needs to be 20, that needs to be about 22, but round about 20 is good for both. And that is the nut slots just about done. I'm going to finish this off camera, a little bit off there, a little bit off there, hardly anything off those two at all. So I'll finish it off camera. Once that's done, we'll go to the bench and we'll shape the nut. So before I remove the neck from my body, etc, etc, and do the final shaping of the nut, I've got all the slots cut nice and low. The guitar plays fine. And I've gone as low as I want to over that first fret because, like I say, it is going on a different body. It can make a slight difference. I've still gone one within standard tolerances. If you want to take a measure, I've still gone round about 0.32 on the bass side. I normally go 0.3, and I've dropped down to 0.2 mil on the treble side. So pretty much standard. I normally go 0.3 to 0.2. We could go lower if we wanted to, but because this neck is going on a different body and it's likely to be set up slightly different, I'm going to go with that. So it's still nice and low, and yeah, it plays great. So all I need to do now is remove the neck, remove the tape, file down and do the final shaping of the nut because the grooves are as deep as they want to be, but the nut is now too high because these are all buried in the slots, especially the 3 bass strings. I like the 3 bass strings about 2/3 buried and 1/3 sticking out of the top. So I'm going to reshape that nut, get it polished up. Once it's done, I'm going to give the fingerboard one more coating of oil. I'm going to rub the neck down and it will be ready to go. So we'll come back and finalise this video very soon. We are all done, and what a lovely project this has been. I don't know what sentimental value this neck holds to its owner, but it does, and that's all that matters. And all he sent it in, he says, can you level the frets and recrown them? And I couldn't because the frets were too low, so I says we're gonna have to go for a refret. So the only instructions I were given really were, I don't care what it looks like as long as the job's a good one. He says, but if you can make it look more aged relic, the better. Now I've not relicked it, I'm not into relicking, but look how it came out. If that doesn't look aged, I don't know what is. It just came out brilliant. Now remember, it came in, I had to take all the varnish off and re-radius the board because it wasn't right, and in doing so and oiling the neck, I mean it's had about 15, 16, 17 coats of linseed or boiled linseed oil, but it's just, this is what came out of the old frets and what have you, and that's all that staining came out of the wood or out of the old frets, and it was brilliant. And yeah, there are a couple of marks where I did hit the fingerboard slightly with the hammer there, but that is not going to cause a problem, but that looks relic to me. Also, these weren't straight when I got them, so I plugged the holes, I sanded the surface down and set them all up and lined them all up again. So there you go. So I've not charged for re-radiusing and sanding the board. I've not really charged for oiling everything either. I've just charged basically for the refret. I've charged him £250, and that's basically the refret. It's got a brand new bone nut on there as well, something I charged £65 for on its own. So it's certainly had his money's worth here, and I think it looks fabulous. Nice and smooth down the edges there. I may just run across slightly again with a little bit of real fine paper, but saying that, there's nothing sharp there. That is fabulous. The frets are level, straight, and they look fabulous. And there you go. And that is this one done. And it's just the neck, so I went a little bit more conservative on the nut slots, so probably a tiny bit higher than I'd normally cut them. But that is not going to be a problem. Brand new bone nut on there, like I say. These have been lined up again. They're staggered. The low ones this side, the higher ones there. He's had a complete reprofile, brand new frets, and the job is a good one. And I'm sure he's going to be happy with it. He says, I've sent him a small video, which I've filmed a short while ago. He says it looks fantastic. Well, reserve your judgment until you get hold of it. But what a lovely project this has been, and it's all ready to go back. So I'm going to get this back in its postal tube, get it organised, and I'll drop this at the post office tomorrow and that can go back. So that is it for this project. Just before I do go, I'm going to remind you of my website, facebook.com/ng17. That's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I am Victor. I am your fret friend. And until the next time, as always, God bless you. Be good to each other, and I will see you in the next one.